Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Lauren and I am the owner of Jewellery here in Iceland. In today's video I'm going to be talking about what to do during the downtimes in running a small jewellery business. Lately on social media I've been seeing a lot of small jewellery business owners struggling to make sales, and some even having to close their businesses because of lack of sales during the cost of living crisis. And I understand how difficult it is to run a business during these times of financial struggle, but I do personally believe they're also a great time for opportunity. I personally wouldn't have started making jewellery if it wasn't for the 2008 recession. Even though it's a scary time for everyone, I also think there is opportunity to be had. So I've made a list of things that I think it's good to focus on during this time for small jewellery business owners. So the first point on my list is what I've just mentioned. Recessions can be scary, but they also bring great opportunities. So just bear that in mind and keep looking out for opportunities that you might find in very strange places, actually. And my next point is that maybe you might need to close your business. Maybe you need to close it soon, but it doesn't have to be forever. It can just be temporary while this is going on. You can always come back to it later, and it's not the end of the world if that happens. I used to work as a jeweller in the jewellery industry in factories, and I remember not long after I started working at the first factory, a lot of the other companies within the area that I was working, it was Birmingham Jewellery Quarter, the factories were going on short time, and luckily the factory that I was working at just managed to avoid it. But I did have friends who did have to go short time. So a lot of companies struggle in a time like this. It's not just small businesses, it affects a lot of the big players too. My first tip for maybe saving money is sell your scrap. You probably have, like I do, a lot of scrap silver that you might use some of your scrap, like I try to use a lot of it, but the dust is something that I will never use. I have held on to my scraps of silver for over a decade. If you need the cash for your business right now, this is a good time to cash in that scrap and get the money for it that you can reinvest into your business. Another way to make some money quickly if you are struggling is to sell your non-essential tools, but make sure you keep the basic tools. Even if you need to close your business in the meantime, you'll be grateful in the future when it comes time to revisit jewellery. You'll be grateful that you kept the basic tools. I know from experience I sold a lot of my non-essential tools to fund my move to Iceland, and of course I didn't want to sell my rolling mill, my pendant motor, things like this, but they weren't essential to me. But I am very grateful that I kept my saw frame, my file, things like this, like the very basic, the hammers, the mallets. Keep those tools. Also see how long you can go with just using what you already have, and just try to use that all up first before you put on another order. So try to use every scrap of silver that you can. Get through your stash of stones, we all have them. Use your saw blades, your drill bits. Just try to use what you already have for a while without making any more purchases, and see how long you can continue running like that. And that's also quite good because it also sometimes forces you to get a bit creative with the designs if you're just using little scraps of silver. One of my old kind of bestsellers was made because I just had tiny corners of scrap to use, and I just turned them into tiny minimalistic heart-shaped stud earrings, and they used to sell very well. So it kind of forces you to be more creative with what you're making. See if you can start using some cheaper materials in place of what you're already using. So maybe you could use some scrap copper, like copper pipes or electrical wire. Maybe you can use some sea glass that you found on the beach. What I quite like using, which is very abundant in my town during the summer, I like to pick up broken bicycle reflectors and cut them into cabochons and set them into jewellery, and they get quite a lot of attention. If you can get anything for free for your business, that's obviously going to save you money. So just see if you can find something, not necessarily just for free, but cheaper, that you can use in your jewellery. in the meantime. Maybe try some other mediums if you can find it for cheap. So maybe you've never tried wax carving before. I mean, a block of wax is going to last you for quite a long time. Maybe you can find someone who is destashing some scraps of wax and you could try carving. Maybe it's not the right time to get them cast if you can't afford it, but you can experiment with carving the shapes that you can use in the future and get cast when you can afford it. You could also maybe try using polymer clay. I often see people getting rid of their old polymer clay. They just didn't enjoy the hobby, or selling it cheaply on eBay, for example. I am very sorry about the lighting that's just suddenly started to come through. You could also try beading. That can be quite cheap to set up. I won't say it's always cheap, but that's how I got into jewellery, and the reason that I started making jewellery is because it was cheap for me to make some beaded Christmas gifts for my friends. Right now you might be able to find some cheap second-hand big ticket items if people are selling their non-essential tools and maybe you have a little bit of cash that you can spend. You might be able to get a kiln or a rolling mill or a pendant motor for a fraction of the price if people are selling off their old big ticket items. So that could be, if you feel like that's going to help in your business a lot, this could be a good time to invest in those things if you can afford it. You can ask people in your life if they have any supplies lying around. You would be surprised the amount of people that have tried beading in their lives and just didn't get on with it, and they've just had a box of beading supplies lying around for years. You could ask on Facebook. You can just put a community post. Does anyone have anything that I can use? Polymer clay, beading supplies, some old tools lying around, and see if you can get things for free, or maybe you just pay a nominal amount of money for it. You can learn how to make your own tools. So you could use, an old plastic toothbrush, saw off the head and kind of file it and buff it to make like a softer pusher for stone setting. You can use your old broken drill bits and carve them into really tiny design stamps, like metal stamps. I've never done that myself, but I did have a jewellery teacher who had made a very, very tiny heart stamp, and she explained the process. But yeah, I mean, this could be a good time to experiment with that. For those who are working on their business full time, you may need to find another source of income in the meantime, if that is, a food delivery or a side gig, or even just a part-time job, or maybe even a full-time job. That's okay. Like, you just need to support yourself at the moment, and if your business is not supporting you full-time, that is fine, and it is nothing to be ashamed of. But yeah, so you might need to do that, and that's okay. I work full-time in an industry that has nothing to do with jewellery. Yeah, it's okay. Hi again, this is Editing Lauren. I just realised that I missed a point from this section. When I was a teenager, I used to repair beaded jewellery, especially for my nan's friends. She would get all of her friends, ask them if they had any jewellery that needed repairing, and I would charge them usually between £1 to £5 depending on the repair job. None of it was precious metal, it was just restringing and maybe adding like a silver plated lobster clasp or something. And obviously this was over a decade ago, so adjust the prices accordingly. But that actually does add up. You can make quite a lot of money just repairing beaded jewellery, and that could be a side hustle for you. This one I think is important. It's keeping your social media presence and also any kind of free online presence that you have. Keep that up. Like, maybe if you can't afford to keep running your business, you need to close down the website that you pay for and things like this, but any kind of free presence that you have on the internet, keep that going and keep it up even if you close down your business. Because in the future, if you're going to be at a point where you want to reopen, you'll still have all of the customers and the followers and people that were interested in your work will still be there if you maintained that social media presence. Whereas if you were just starting again, you might not reach those same people that were interested in your work before, or it might be very difficult to find them again. This next one is something close to my heart, but if you're able to and you can afford it, offer your skills to your community for free. because people will remember. I teach free beading classes to refugees here in Iceland when I can. You know, it's not a weekly thing, but it's when I have the time to. And I really feel that that will come back to me in a positive way one day. But I also just think it's really nice to just give to a community in general. But yeah, I'm sure people will remember when you do things like this for them. Now might be a really good time, if you are able to teach a workshop, is to start reaching out to community centres, cafes, libraries, anywhere that you might be able to host a workshop, and just put the offer out saying like, I'm looking to teach a workshop, you know, is this something I could do with you? This is not necessarily a free workshop, it might be, you know, a paid workshop that people pay for. But even if they don't get back to you now, in a few months' time, they might come to you and say, actually, you know, we're looking for someone to do something here, you know, and that could be a source of income for months in the future or a year in the future, you know. Yeah, just start reaching out, and you'll never know when that might actually come in useful, that you've already done the work. This one is about community building, so connect with other jewellers online. Like, I love the fact that on Instagram now I have like so many jewellers that are like my Instagram friends that you know, we message each other, we support each other by commenting on the posts and things. But another great thing that comes from that is skill sharing. I have offered advice to other jewellers who have asked for it, you know, about like wax carving and things like this. And I've also received advice from other jewellers that I reached out to, and I was just like, hey, like, I really love this work. How did you do it? And, you know, sometimes people are not happy to share, but more often than not, I think they are. And if you can get that little bit of education for free, obviously that's going to kind of push your skill set and grow that skill set a bit more, but you're also not paying for it. You never know what will come from that as well. So just connect with the other jewellers. Like, none of us are in competition, you know, we should all be supporting each other. And going on from that, this is a really, really good time to just work on and refine your skills for when things get better. These down periods, even though they're stressful financially, they do kind of free up some time where you can just really deep dive into your making skills and learn something new. And yeah, maybe this time, we don't know how long this cost of living crisis is going to last. Maybe it's a few months, maybe it's, you know, a few years. But say, I have no idea, but say it lasts 5 years and it's 5 years of difficulty. But imagine if you put 5 years into learning engraving or stone setting or any of these good skills. You know, in 5 years' time, how much better are you going to be when the economy takes off again and when everything starts to recover, like financially? And you're going to be like a master at that skill that is marketable and sellable in the future. And, you know, you could make a huge profit in the future. So just deep dive into refining your skill set. It's also a good time to just focus on things that you want to make. You know, things that you just want to make for your own pleasure. It's just enjoyable to you. It's not like a marketable design. It's just something that you really want to make. Focus on those things because they just bring you joy. If it's not making you money, it can still be your hobby. And you never know. You may actually discover your signature style just from making the things that you love. And if, like me, you find it difficult to find your signature style, but that would be amazing if you just did these things that you love and then suddenly found it. That's a great thing. And finally, just remember that you're not alone in this difficult time. We're all going through this. Your skills are so valuable. Don't lose them. Regardless of whether you need to close your business and, you know, if you're not making any money, just keep practicing. Keep making jewellery because your skills are so valuable and you just don't want to lose them. I know from when I moved to Iceland, I took a few years break from making jewellery, and when I started again, I was so frustrated because my skill level, it was here, it had gone down to here, and it was so difficult to get back up again. So just keep making. And remember that this situation is only temporary, so don't give up. That's it from me today. I hope you enjoyed this video. Have a lovely day, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.